Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Kelly, and today we are on Unit 1, Week 2, Day 4. So let's get started. Today we are going to practice our active listening. We're going to understand and explain the function of coordinating conjunctions. Remember them? We're going to identify conjunctions and independent clauses in context. We're going to provide evidence from text to support claims. We're going to differentiate between fact and opinion. And we're going to build stamina for independent reading. So first, let's review those coordinating conjunctions and independent clauses. Remember conjunction, junction? Well, we're going back. So just to review, a coordinating conjunction is a word that connects other words or phrases or parts of sentences, which are called clauses. Coordinating conjunctions include the words and, but, for, or so. Today, we're going to look at how conjunctions connect independent clauses, groups of words that include a subject and a verb, and that can stand on their own as complete sentences. So you can take like two little mini sentences and connect them with a conjunction. So let's take a look over here at some of the coordinating conjunctions. We have for, which can connect reasons. For example, Mila ate a sandwich for she was hungry. And, which can connect similar ideas. I will have fries and I would like a milkshake. Nor, which is a negative form of or. I do not like carrots, nor do I like broccoli. But connects opposite ideas. Sam usually plays soccer, but he has a broken ankle. Or connects two choices. Would you like mustard or do you want ketchup with your hot dog? Yet connects opposite ideas. I was having a good day at school, yet I wanted to go home. And so connects a problem with a solution. It was cold outside, so Anne put on a sweater. Now, I found this and I thought it was really cute. This is a way to remember the coordinating conjunctions. If you think of the word fanboys, and there are all the different superheroes, right? There's F for, A and, N nor, B but, O or, Y yet, S so. So there are the fanboys. And our coordinating conjunctions join words, phrases, and clauses. So let's take a look at a short history of a special plant, and that is found on page 12 of your Unit 1 booklet. So we have a sentence here that is highlighted in the text. It is in paragraph 2. So remember, there's a little number next to the paragraph, and I highlighted it here, okay? So look in paragraph 2 on page 12 of A Short History of a Special Plant. And the sentence is, maize spread through North and South America, and it became a major part of the Native American diet. So let's take a look at this sentence, and let's take a look at the coordinating conjunction and what it joins. Okay, I broke this sentence into two parts. Maize spread through North and South America. And then there's the coordinating conjunction and then the second clause, it became a major part of the Native American diet. So the first clause, the one in yellow, describes how maize spread or grew. The second clause, the one that's in the blue there, explains that maize became a major part of the Native American diet. So instead of having two separate sentences, maize spread through North and South America. It became a major part of the Native American diet. We can include this coordinating conjunction and make it one sentence. So now, just from that one sentence, I understand that maize spread and it became an important part of people's diets. The conjunction also helps to establish a cause and effect relationship. I understand what happened and I understand why it happened. So maize became a major part of the Native American diet because it spread through North and South America. Oh, you might hear Mr. Pip crunching back there. Okay, so now we're going to go to page 14. So please turn to page 14 of your Unit 1 booklet, and please find paragraph 8 of A Short History of a Special Plant. Paragraph 8, and I highlighted the sentence. If you have a highlighter at home, you can certainly highlight. In the past, a farmer would grow corn year after year in the same field, and the soil would get worn out. So I took this sentence and I put it a little bigger over here, and you can see that the first clause in yellow, in the past, a farmer would grow corn year after year in the same field. Then I have the coordinating conjunction and so the first clause describes how corn was traditionally grown, right? The farmer would just keep planting the corn in the same field year after year. The second clause, which is here in blue, the soil would get worn out, explains what happened to the soil when the corn was grown in this way. So when the corn was grown in the same field year after year after year, the soil would get worn out, the nutrients would be gone. Now I understand from this sentence that growing corn in the same field every year damaged the soil. So just like the one we saw before, we could have made this into two sentences, right? We could have said, in the past, a farmer would grow corn year after year in the same field, period. The soil would get worn out, period. But instead of doing that, we add the coordinating conjunction and we turn it into one sentence. So in this sentence, the coordinating conjunction and also helps to establish a cause and effect relationship. I understand what happened and why. So the soil got worn out. That's the effect. And the cause is that farmers were planting corn in the same spot year after year after year. Okay, so now we're going to try one in our booklets. So if you can open your booklet, make sure you're on page 14. And we're going to take a look at this sentence, and we're going to do a little bit of circling and underlining, okay? So this is the one that we just looked at in the previous slide. And in order to practice, you're going to circle the coordinating conjunction, which is and. So circle and you're going to underline the independent clauses. So the first one is, in the past, a farmer would grow corn year after year in the same field. Then you circle and. Then you're going to underline the soil would get worn out. So circle the conjunction and then underline the two independent clauses. So it should look like that. Your booklet should look like that. Okay? Okay, now you are going to go to page 19 of your booklet, and you're going to complete the Build Grammar and Language section on page 19. So go to page 19 and find where it says Build Grammar and Language. Focus on conjunctions. Find and read the complex sentences below in context on page 14. Notice how the writer uses a conjunction to combine two independent clauses to connect ideas. So here's a sentence. At first, maize was entirely unknown to them, but they quickly saw its value. So the coordinating conjunction is the word but, and our independent clauses are, at first, maize was entirely unknown to them, and they quickly saw its value. So see if you can now, for this part of this grammar and language, you're going to find and write another complex sentence that uses a conjunction to combine ideas. So go back into the text, go back into the story, okay, A Short History of a Special Plant, and you're going to find a sentence that includes a conjunction to connect two independent clauses and write it in your booklet. Once you've done that, you're going to write your own complex sentence using a conjunction to combine two independent clauses and connect ideas. So think of your own sentence. It can be about anything. It could be about anything you want. So you're going to go back. If you would need to rewind the video, you can look at that fanboys or the chart of all the conjunctions, right? Maybe my sentence might be, I wanted to take Banshee and Mr. Pip to the dog park, but it started raining. So that might be my complex sentence, okay? So you're going to write your own sentence here on these lines. So you can stop or pause the video, complete Build Grammar and Language on page 19, and then come back and restart the video when you are finished. Okay, now we're going to take a look at author's point of view and author's purpose. And we've been talking about author's purpose. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about author's point of view or perspective, okay? So author's perspective or point of view is how the author feels about a topic, okay? It might include the author's opinions about a topic or beliefs. Sometimes you can tell if the author is for or against something. So for example, if somebody wrote bananas are the best fruit, well, we know how they feel about bananas. We know what their point of view or perspective is about bananas. Think back to when you read Keep Corn on the Cob, Not in My Car, right? We knew what that author's perspective or point of view was on turning corn into ethanol fuel. They did not think that that was a good idea. You can also sometimes look at text evidence, the reasons that an author gives to support the way they feel about the topic. So for example, the author may say, bananas make our bodies healthier and happier. Now that is the author's opinion. They may be able to give us some facts to back up the health benefits of bananas, but happier, maybe some people aren't happy eating bananas, right? But we can also use that to tell what the author's perspective or point of view is. This author really likes bananas, and this author thinks that bananas are a very good fruit to eat. So we're going to be doing something called close reading, okay? Close reading. So close reading is sort of like detective work, okay? So think of a detective. So when we read a story for the very first time, okay, we sometimes will use strategies that we know to better understand the text, okay? And sometimes when we read something for the first time, we might understand it, but there might be certain things that we don't fully understand or we have questions about. So we will go back and reread the same text over again. We may read it twice. We may read it 3 times or 4 times. And each time we read, we dig a little bit deeper to analyze or look closer at certain sections of the text to find deeper meaning. This is called close reading. When you go back, you reread the text, maybe for a different reason. Maybe you're looking for something different the second or third time that you read. So in this little picture here, I thought this was cute. So she's dressed up like a detective. She has her little magnifying glass. So a close reader works like a detective. So you are doing careful, purposeful reading. You're reading for a purpose, okay? And you may be reading a text to find out the author's purpose. You might be finding out what the author says or how the author feels about a topic. You might see how the text flows or what certain words mean or what the structure of the text tells you. You will read and reread the text, and you may reread for different reasons. And a good close reader will always use evidence from the text to support your thinking or to support your answers. If you're asked to find out the answer to a question, you're always going to go back to the text like a little detective. So when we read The Future of a Crop last week, we analyzed language to find out the author's point of view. Then we use that information to figure out the author's purpose for writing the text. So today we're going to closely reread part of the paragraph Early Cultivation from the story A Short History of a Special Plant. And we'll figure out the author's point of view and the author's purpose for writing to help you better understand the ideas in the text. So just to review, I know we talked about author's purpose before, but just to review, the author's purpose, we're going to think of the word pie, P-I-E. Persuade means to convince the reader of a certain point of view. To inform means to teach or give factual information to the reader. And to entertain means to hold the attention of the reader through enjoyment. Right? The author wrote something just so the reader would have something enjoyable to read. And as we're reading, we're also going to see if we can figure out the author's viewpoint, right? What choice of words does the author use? Maybe there are some clues that tell us if there's something the author's trying to tell us about this particular topic. Okay, so let's take a look at paragraphs 4 through 6, Early Cultivation, and that is found on page 13 of your Unit 1 booklet, so please turn to page 13. And we're going to take a look at these 3 paragraphs here, paragraph 4, paragraph 5, and paragraph 6. And what we're trying to find out here is, what is the author's point of view of the Three Sisters farming method? So if we see any specific language to support our answer, we can underline it. And based on our point of view, what can we tell about the author's purpose for writing this section of the story? Okay, so let's take a look at this section of the text again. Early cultivation. The first Native American corn farmers used the seeds from the healthiest corn plants to grow their crops. This selective breeding improved their crop yield. When farmers realized they could plant a surplus of corn and not hurt their fields, they grew larger crops and stored the leftover corn as a food supply that could last during the winter months. The Native American planting system was called the Three Sisters method. For centuries, early farmers planted their fields with 3 plants, corn, beans, and squash together. Each plant helped the other grow, and the mixture of plants helped preserve nutrients in the soil. So that's paragraph 4. Okay, so are there anything in there that's a clue that tells us what the author's perspective is, maybe what the author's purpose is? Now let's look at paragraph 5. The advantages of planting the 3 crops together were tenfold. Corn was a strong and vertical plant that stood straight, so the beans could curl up around its stalk. In turn, the beans fixed nitrogen in their roots, helping restore the soil. Meanwhile, the squash leaves spread out on the ground and retained moisture in the soil for the other plants. They also helped keep away pests. This mutually beneficial arrangement among the plants mimics the type of symbiosis found in nature. The end result was a healthy crop that yielded a variety of nutritious plants and also maintained the integrity of the soil. So again, is there anything in there that might be a clue as to what the author's point of view is, or maybe the author's purpose? Finally, let's look at paragraph 6. Europeans began to settle in North America in the 1600s. At first, maize was entirely unknown to them, but they quickly saw its value. The English called it corn because that is what they called all wheat and barley crops in England. Native Americans taught the settlers how to grow and care for the Three Sisters crops. The settlers recognized that maize was key to their survival. In time, people around the world began to grow and eat maize. So let's take a look at some of the sentences from this section of the text. So in this section, Early Cultivation, the author includes facts about why the Three Sisters planting method was beneficial. Okay, facts are things that are true. Remember, a fact is true, and an opinion is like your feeling about something. Each plant helped the other grow, and the mixture of plants helped preserve nutrients in the soil. So that's a fact that the author used to include why the Three Sisters planting method was beneficial or good for the plants. Now, as I'm reading these, let's underline them in your booklet. So let's find the sentence, each plant helped the other grow, and the mixture of plants helped preserve nutrients in the soil. And let's underline that sentence. That's a fact. The next sentence, the advantages of planting the three crops together were tenfold. That means that there were a lot of benefits to this system of planting. So let's underline that sentence as well. That is another fact that the author includes to show that this method of planting was beneficial or good for all of the plants. And finally, the end result was a healthy crop that yielded a variety of nutritious plants and also maintained the integrity of the soil. Let's underline that sentence as well. So based on these three sentences, okay, we've underlined them in our booklet. How do you think the author feels about the Three Sisters farming method? Do you think that the author feels that this is a good way, that this was a good way for them to plant, or maybe this was not such a good way? I think that the author thinks this was a good thing because the author included several benefits or good things about the Three Sisters planting method, facts that back up why this was a beneficial planting method. So I would say that the author's point of view is that the Three Sisters planting method was very helpful to the early English settlers and the Native Americans to grow better crops. Now, the author's purpose is a little bit different than the author's point of view or perspective. So why do you think the author wrote this part of the text? Okay, so in that section that we just read, Early Cultivation, the author shares facts and information about the Three Sisters planting method as well as the history of corn. So the author gives us scientific information and historical information. Okay, history and science. So let's find and underline a few of those sentences in our booklet. The first one is scientific information. It says, in turn, the beans fixed nitrogen in their roots, helping restore the soil. So let's underline that sentence. That's a scientific fact. Another scientific fact is this mutually beneficial arrangement among the plants mimics the type of symbiosis found in nature. And remember, symbiosis is when two living things live together in harmony where they each help the other one, right? Remember, there's the little bird that might pick off bugs off of a rhinoceros's back, and the bird benefits because it gets protection, right? It gets to kind of live on the rhinoceros, and it gets food from the little bugs, and the rhinoceros benefits because the bird is picking and eating off all those itchy little bugs. That's symbiosis. So let's underline that sentence as well. Now we have some history information, historical facts. Europeans began to settle in North America in the 1600s. So let's underline that sentence. And finally, Native Americans taught the settlers how to grow and care for the Three Sisters crops. Let's underline that sentence. So what do you think the author's purpose is for writing this part of the text? Do you think she's trying to persuade or convince us of something, inform or give us facts or information? or entertain. What do you think this author's purpose is and why? Okay, now let's take a look at paragraphs 4 through 6 on pages 14 and 15. Now, this time, as we're going through, we're going to annotate the text, which means we can underline, circle, or write notes in the margin. Okay, so we're going to reread the Corn Belt on pages 14 and 15. What is the author's point of view on farming practices in the Midwest? Cite specific language to support your answer. Based on this information, make an inference about the author's purpose for writing this section. So let's look at the text. In the United States, most of the corn was and still is grown in the Midwest or Corn Belt. This region's climate has the hot summers and regular rainfall that corn needs to grow 3 meters or 10 feet tall. In the past, a farmer would grow corn year after year in the same field and the soil would get worn out. As a result, the corn harvest would decrease. To combat this problem, farmers rotated crops, planting different crops each year. One common pattern or rotation of crops is to plant soybeans one year and corn the next. Soybean plants add nutrients back into the soil. Many farms in the Corn Belt also raise cattle or hogs. These animals eat both corn and corn stalks. In the fall, the animals go out in the fields to eat any leftover corn. Animal waste helps fertilize the soil for the next season. So did you see any information, any sentences that maybe give you an idea of what the author's purpose is or what the author's point of view is? Oops. Well, if I'm looking at this text, I think that the author is sort of making a point about how farmers have sort of developed different methods of helping their corn to grow. So one of those, a sentence that I might underline in my text is, to combat this problem, farmers rotated crops, planting different crops each year. So that was a way, that's a fact, okay? It's not the author's opinion, it's a fact that the farmers would change what was being planted in that field year after year so the soil wouldn't get worn out. Another sentence that I might underline is, in the fall, the animals go out in the fields to eat any leftover corn. Animal waste helps to fertilize the soil for the next season. So by putting the animals in the cornfields right after the corn harvest is done, they can eat any leftover corn, they can eat the corn stalks, and then the animal waste will help to fertilize the soil in that field for the next growing season. So I think that the author gives us some facts, some scientific facts, right? I think the author's point of view is that the author thinks that farmers have developed ways to improve growing corn and improve the process of growing corn to get a better harvest. And I think that the author's purpose is to inform. She's giving us factual information, she's giving us scientific facts and information, and she is informing or sort of teaching us facts about the process of growing corn. Okay, now it is your turn to try this on your own. And your next assignment is a Google Doc that will be linked with this assignment in Google Classroom. So you're going to go to Google Doc, author's point of view and author's purpose. First, you're going to reread The Rise of Industrial Farming on pages 15 and 16 of your booklet. Okay, reread that section of the text, The Rise of Industrial Farming. Then you're going to fill in the table on the Google form with the author's point of view and author's purpose. So what do you think the author's point of view on the impact of new farming methods is? Do you think the author thinks that these are helping corn or corn production and helping farmers to grow corn? Why or why not? So you're going to put your response and then give evidence from the text. Why do you think that? Are there any sentences that the author included that kind of give you an idea of what their point of view is? What do you think the author's purpose is for writing this section of the text? Is it to persuade? Is it to inform? Is it to entertain? So you can write your response there. And then what is some evidence in the text? How do you know that that is the author's purpose? And that can go there. So you can stop or pause the video, open up the Google Doc, reread the directions at the top so you know what to do, and I will be here when you get back. Okay, finally, independent reading. So you are going to take your independent reading book of your choice. You're going to choose a spot where you won't get distracted, get started right away, keep your eyes on the page, stay in one spot, read the whole time, read silently, and most importantly, think about the book. Think about what you are reading. And if you have a timer, as always, you can set a phone timer, a kitchen timer, if you have an egg timer, or you can use one of these online timers so that you know when your independent reading time is finished. Okay? I hope you enjoyed our lesson today, boys and girls. See you next time.